Right now, I am pleased to be joined in studio by Greg Bicouvaris of GJB Productions and Marketing, and he is the co-founder of the Hampton Roads Sports Media Hall of Fame. You can find more at hrsmhof.com. Greg, let's start things off with the latter. How did you and Langley Speedway promoter Chuck Hall come to creating the Sports Media Hall of Fame?
First of all, it's a pleasure to be with you here, Matt. And of course, it was in 2017 in the summer. And used to be a board member of the Peninsula Sports Club. There's a lot of sports clubs in the area that have honored media people randomly once or so a year. And I thought there's a big void. We honor all these athletes, but without us, the media people, the broadcasters, nobody would know who these athletes really are. Sports talk radio's changed it. Over the years when print was relevant, it changed it. TV obviously has changed it. And now the internet has changed it. So I thought there was a void, a big void in honoring media people.
Yeah, it's a good point because these athletes, they need the exposure from somewhere, and these people that are giving them the exposure, the athletes go on to do great things. We know their name, but sometimes the media members can get lost in translation.
Right, you got to feed the beast. The beast is us. I mean, there's so much media now, whether it's YouTube or online or podcasts, but traditional radio and TV are still important to promote these athletes day to day in the minutia, especially not only in the dog days of the summer, but year round.
So what does it mean for this area to have this Sport Media Hall of Fame?
Well, I think it's very important. Number one, it's the Hampton Roads Sports Media Hall of Fame. We've honored 5 recipients in 2018 and 5 in 2019 to honor people from the past, present, and sometimes the future about broadcasting, print, and public relations. We've had a really good class the last 2 years, but to give them credibility, to give them a perpetual at one place at Langley Speedway. Not that everybody's a racing fan, but Matt, we didn't want to have a rubber chicken banquet dinner where you had to get all dressed up and be uptight and get an award. This is at an outdoor sporting event in the spring. We do 2 or 3 events as far as during the course of the night, meaning we honor 3 people after maybe 1 race or before the race, and 2, so we kind of do it in between the races. We're not the main show there. We're just part of the event, but people love it. They got a suite. You got a lot of fans who are sports fans there, and they recognize a lot of these people.
Seems really symbolic for what media members actually are. It's not about us. It's about the event that we're covering.
Right.
I like that. I think that's a good idea. Talking with Greg Bicouvaris of GJB Productions and Marketing and the Hampton Roads Sport Media Hall of Fame in studio here on the Nick Cattle Show. You mentioned you had inductions in 2018 and 2019. Tell us about some of those past classes.
Yeah, very nice people. You recognize a lot of them. Carol Hudson from Old Dominion, Jim Dusabella, who worked for the Virginia Pilot, the late Mike Minium, who worked at the Daily Press, Bruce Rader at Channel 10 for decades, Jennifer Williams, a pioneer in female sports writing at the Daily Press. This past year, Scott Cash, the late Abe Goldblatt, Al Pierce, who's in the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, Bob Rathman, the voice of the Atlanta Hawks, who used to be the voice of Old Dominion as well, and the Admirals and William and Mary, and Tom Robinson, who worked for the Pilot for years. So we've really got a who's who, and it's only going to grow. We can't get everybody in 1 year, but you figure 5 a year, you're going to get a lot as the years go on.
So let's talk about the upcoming class. It'll be announced, I'm assuming it's sometime this year. Can you give us an update?
Right. We'll be announcing, we have a 7-member board team. We can't do this by 1 or 2 people. We have 7 board members, and we meet in November. We'll have 10 on the ballot, Matt, and only 5 will get selected. So they've had time to process and progress. So by the time we get to vote, we'll have a good idea who it's going to be. The event is usually in May, and we'll have it announced sometime in the first quarter of the year.
Talking with Greg Bicouvaris here in studio on the Nick Cattle Show. Greg is of GJB Productions and Marketing and the Hampton Roads Sports Media Hall of Fame. Just a few more for you, Greg.
Sure.
Obviously, you just alluded to it. There's more than just you and Chuck on the board. Tell us about some of these other members making these decisions.
One is Ian Locke from the Norfolk Tides.
Oh, I like Ian. Fun fact, Ian and I went to the same college. Different years, but same college.
Yes, Ian's a great guy, does a lot of radio segments in the area too. And Wade Harrington, who works for the Newport News City Channel. Brian Kilo, who's a webmaster as far as websites. Matt McCulloch, the sports information director at Norfolk State. Ron Peterson Jr., who's an accomplished author in the area. He did a book recently as well. And Sharon Scott, who's a city councilwoman in Newport News. We got a lot of good diversity as well.
So you have a long history in the sports media world. Take us down memory lane a little bit. You and I were talking before we started this.
Yeah, like you, I've done on air and behind the scenes. I went to George Mason University, did college radio there, did the college TV show, and I think that helped. From there, I went to WCBS in New York and learned a lot from a lot of network people. So being on the air in Newport News, having called high school football for over 30 years, that's been a big joy, because not just at Newport News, but Hampton Roads, so many great athletes like we talked about. But as far as TV, in addition to doing commercials and hosting, working with people like Brent Musburger or Jim Nantz or Kevin Burkhardt at Fox. In fact, I'll be working with him September 15th at the Cowboys-Redskins game. Mike Patrick, Joe Buck. These are all who's who. That I'm kind of like the third wheel as a stage manager. When you see these announcements, Matt, during the game, like coming up tonight is a certain show, I'll give them the card and they'll read it on the air. But you have a great window to an excellent sporting event.
You just rattled off a number of names. Who's the favorite personality that you've worked with over the years?
The biggest and best gentleman by far is Jim Nantz. He's exactly like you see him on and off the air. I haven't worked with him that many times, but we did work the Duke, North Carolina game in Chapel Hill, did work a Ravens-Steelers game one time as well, and worked a Georgetown game. So I can count the times I work with him, but always a gentleman, always gracious.
Last one for you, Greg. So
Sure.
Obviously Hampton Roads, it's seemingly increasingly becoming this pipeline hotbed for professional athletes. Talent just oozes out of this area. With that being said, how optimistic are you for the future of not just the sporting world in Hampton Roads, but the sports media world as well?
I think it's changing. I think you guys are a good example of what you guys do here. I think YouTube, I think podcast, I think online complements radio and TV. You need something to have added value. Anybody can just turn on the radio, but it's taking it to the next level to help the athlete, help the station, and help everything grow like that. You have to have added value, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, social media, but the extra one-line element helps as well.
His name is Greg Bicouvaris, and he is of GJB Productions and Marketing. He is also the co-founder of the Hampton Roads Sports Media Hall of Fame. Once again, for more information, be sure to check out hrsmhof.com. Greg, thanks so much for stopping by. This was fun.
Thank you, Matt, as well, and all the best to you and Nick.